Okay, case study number 2. Again, a small company. This one's smaller than case study number 1. Let's call it a $25 million annual revenue business. Not a very high profit margin business. And this was a business in central Minnesota that has lots of seasonal and part-time workers. They're owned by a dad, and some sons are involved in the ownership, but dad's the controlling owner. You know, in your career, you're likely going to work with lots of these kinds of businesses, and always there's some kind of family dynamic, and there's always some kind of ownership issue that comes up. This one, though, is a little unique. I don't see this a lot, but it is out there in that because there were so many seasonal and part-time workers, the 401k plan didn't really work very well for anybody. Let's go back a couple of weeks and think about when you've talked about 401ks. Who puts money into a 401k? Well, it's full-time employees that are making enough money to feel like they need to save something for retirement out of that. Well, how many part-time and seasonal employees are going to put money in a 401k plan? There you go. That's about 0. So what you learned about the discrimination testing rules in 401k plans is that if the non-highly compensated group isn't putting much in the plan, the highly compensated group is severely limited. They were limited to putting in 2 or 3% of compensation into the 401k, and there were only 6 or 7 of these people, so the company ended up saying, well, this 401k thing doesn't really work for us because of the demographics of their company, not because it's a bad idea. So the dad asked us to help think about a way to get some money set aside for these key people who manage this big part-time seasonal workforce for them. So this kind of a plan really is just driven by trying to save money for retirement. And the dad, being the owner, had a clear design in mind. He said, well, and it was kind of like this, well, I'm not selling this place for 15 years, so I don't want anybody to be vested for 15 years. I said, well, Dad, 15 years is a long time for human nature, nonetheless for people in their late 30s and 40s when you tell them that. So we arm wrestled a little, hypothetically, and came up with a 15-year vesting schedule, but it's in thirds. Every 5 years, a third of the plan benefits vest. We're now past the 10-year mark in that plan, so the folks in the plan are 2/3 vested in the contributions that have been made. And the company's been putting anywhere from 10 to 15% of their pay into this plan as a profit-sharing contribution. And remember, they're really not able to put anything in the 401k. So this is the only way these folks are being able to save any money for retirement inside the company. Of course, they can always do things on their own outside of the company after tax. But saving money pre-tax for retirement or some other long-term payout is almost always the driving force behind a non-qualified deferred compensation plan, and certainly was here. So this plan, again, that 15-year vesting schedule has kept all these folks employed. They're all still in the plan. And actually, a couple years ago, they added an option I talked about in the first case study where some of these folks can now put away money pre-tax of their own salary or bonus into the same plan with the same interest rate options because they realize now that the 401k is still not working. These people are making more money than they used to, and they want to save some beyond the company contribution. I'm going to talk about funding a little bit. We've talked about funding kind of in some of the slides and reading material. In case study 1, that company also funded their plan with some corporate-owned life insurance. We've talked about that in some of the reading materials. This company also uses some corporate-owned life insurance on each of those 6, 7 people in the plan so that if something happens to them, the company gets the death benefit from the corporate-owned life insurance and then uses that money to pay out the benefits to the plan beneficiaries. They also use, though, just other assets, managed portfolio, mutual funds, to help accumulate the values necessary to pay those benefits out when people leave and after that 15-year vesting point. So this is just another example of how non-qualified plans can help really small company, only 6 or 7 people that are even eligible for a plan like this, and helps them keep those key people, helps them wade through some of the rules that govern 401ks and other qualified plans that don't make them work very well sometimes, and helps create a solution to help those businesses retain those key employees for their life.